Welcome back to the show. It's time to send things over to our analysts, John Ramdine and Robin Black, for another edition of 3 Rounds. As UFC 181, we've got 2 huge championship fights on Saturday night.
Not only do we have 2 title fights, but we have some of the most exciting fighters on the UFC's roster involved in UFC 181. Of course, the main event, Johnny Hendricks and ruthless Robbie Lawler. Being an old school fan, we got to watch Robbie Lawler grow up, spending time around former UFC heavyweight champion Tim Sylvia and legends Jens Pulver and Matt Hughes, also led by Pat Miletich. And we all knew what Robbie Lawler was capable of, but he was just so much younger than those guys. But would he dedicate his time to mixed martial arts? Would there be a time where Robbie Lawler would make a whole lot of money, more money I think than Matt Hughes and Tim Sylvia and Pat Miletich? Now is the time for Robbie Lawler, but one of the things that made him special is his knockout power and his exciting fighting style, whether he won or lost. But same with Johnny Hendricks. During his time in the WEC, you knew that he would be a force and eventually make his way to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Who will deliver the most exciting fight on this card? Will one of the fighters in our main event be that guy?
Yeah, they sure as hell could be. I mean, what a great card. This weekend's gonna be amazing. It's the Fight Network Christmas party, and that's the second most exciting thing this weekend for us, because this card is outstanding. Robbie Lawler is very unique because he is part of the new school, part of the new generation, part of the guys who know the game and the strategy, know how to do it. But he has those old school roots, that development, that browning, and as he rotated on the spit of training, he became a full animal, and then evolved into what he is now. So he's very unique in that way. Johnny Hendricks comes from a different world. He is an elite level wrestler, and they breed killing machines. The high-level NCAA wrestling program can breed the highest level of killers. And he is bred like that, and then he's part of the new school. So which one is more rabid? Which one is more dangerous? The fight itself is just so impeccably good. It was going into the first one, and it's even better going into this one.
And then the co-main event, in my opinion, one of the most, if not the most exciting fighters, maybe in the history of mixed martial arts. He's nicknamed Showtime for a reason. Anthony Pettis, a spectacular athlete, a tremendous fighter, a guy that always looks for the finish, and he seems more comfortable, I think, than most people inside of the cage, because the only way that you can do some of the things that Anthony Pettis does is by being comfortable in the fighting surface.
Yeah, there's different kinds of comfort levels. That Gilbert Melendez is comfortable in a 25-minute battle to survive. He's done it many times, a battle to impose his will. That's what you need against Pettis. Pettis has gone 25 minutes. He was the last winner of the WEC belt with a 25-minute battle, a beautiful one. But Melendez is battle-tested. He's a hard man. He's a hard dude, and that's what you need to go in there. But none of that matters if you wake up looking at the lights, and Pettis has the ability to do that. If you're talking about who's going to be the showstopper, for my money, their last name is going to be Pettis, one way or the other.
What about Uriah Faber, a guy that might be forgotten on this card, taking on Francisco Rivera? For Uriah Faber, to me, one of the most exciting fighters ever in the history of the sport, because he went after it. He would through spinning techniques, and sometimes he would lose because of that. But one thing about Uriah Faber, you always know you're going to get a guy that's going to be in phenomenal shape, and he's always going to go after the finish. But we also have to talk about the heavyweights, Todd Duffy returning, and Travis Brown, one of the most exciting fighters in the heavyweight division, 6'7", super athletic. It's a Dominic Cruz type style, and if he hits you, you're going down.
Yeah, there's a lot. The reason we're so excited about this fight is because of all these fighters that are on it and the matchups themselves. Uriah Faber is a really interesting one, come to think of it. We're talking about how Lawler came from a different time but evolved through to the modern time. Uriah Faber, the moment that he fought Jens Pulver, was kind of pulling that era together and kind of taking over the reins. But also, when he lost to Mike Thomas Brown, he was throwing that spinning technique. Mike Thomas Brown caught him and knocked him out cold. That was a turning point for a lot of fighters. George St-Pierre lost to Matt Serra in a moment of taking risks, and he became a conservative fighter for the rest of his career. Uriah Faber got knocked unconscious spinning and thought, it's going to happen. This is how I fight. I'm always going to be exciting. I'm always going to be driven. And he's been that from day one till the day that he stops fighting. And he can go into a fight like this and look up and down a show like this and go, yeah, I want to make sure I'm the guy that everyone's talking about after this show's over, and he can do it.
I mentioned Travis Brown. You're a you're really high on Brendan Schaub right now, Brown's opponent in this fight. You believe that he's extremely coachable, he is an athlete, and you've seen improvements since his time in The Ultimate Fighter and then coming into the big show.
Yeah, Brendan Schaub is the most underrated guy for weird reasons. I don't know, it even seems like a good dude. Like, so sometimes it's like people don't like a guy's personality or they don't like the way he carries himself. Maybe it was that one, Metamoris performance, where he really didn't go in and go after it. Maybe it's that, but you can't underestimate this guy's skills. We get all wound up because Travis Brown is so big and powerful and likable, and his skills are so good. But if you go in underestimating Brendan Schaub in this one, you're making a mistake, because wrestling is way better than people think. His striking is crisp, and if he goes after it and fails on takedown 1, 2, and 3, and goes after it 4, 5, 6, 7, and really goes after winning this fight, he can absolutely win this fight.
We got to talk about the co-main event. We already mentioned Anthony Pettis. We got to talk about Gilbert Melendez. To me, this is a type of fighter that the only way you're going to stop him is to be physically more imposing than Gilbert Melendez, like we saw in that fight with Ben Henderson.
Yeah.
You have to be just as strong, just as powerful.
I think he won that fight.
And I agree. I think he won that fight as well. But if you're not going to win that way, you're going to have to win by being tenacious and going after it. But Anthony Pettis, he can turn out your lights with his hands, with his feet, and if the fight goes down to the ground, we saw how good of a submission fighter or a top game no-gi jiu-jitsu player Ben Henderson was, and Anthony Pettis dispatched him with the submission.
Yeah, this is the one that, I mean, when this fight is over, we still have a great main event, a 5-round title fight, but this is the one for me, and it's partly because Melendez is so special. He's mentally special. He goes after it. He has that sort of, the good qualities that we attach to a Mexican heritage boxer, he has as an MMA fighter. And whether those cliches are true or not, they're positive ones, so I think we're allowed to go with them. But he's just one of these special fighters, but so is Pettis. He has special skills, and this is a great fight.
Sergio Pettis has the opportunity, John, to kind of get the momentum going, get a big win, and hopefully add some confidence for Anthony Pettis, but I don't think he's going to need confidence. I think he's chocked full of it right now.
Yeah, a lot of depth on this particular card, and that is coming up this Saturday night, and Monday night you can tune into 5 rounds, 7 p.m. Eastern, as Ramdean and Robin will be breaking down the card with all of the highlights from the show. When we return, George St-Pierre goes head-to-head with Firas Zahabi, and this week's viral video are coming your way.